This is a workshop on AI and research methods, shielding, grounded theory, and AI. Who has already done a grounded theory? Who has? Yes?
I did the unit.
You did what?
The unit,
Differential unit. I don't think that's the same thing, but yeah. And who has heard of grounded theory methodology? One, a little bit. Okay. So I will, and people are not really. So I'm going to start from the basis. So to Prof. Glaser and Strauss. So the founder of grounded theory, founders are Glaser and Strauss, that you see on top. They later created two strands of grounded theory, the Glaserian one and the Straussian one. Classic grounded theory is supposed to be the Glaserian one. So if you read about grounded theories, there are different types of grounded theory. I'm talking here about the Glaser or the classic grounded theory, kind of the basis. It's coming from a book published in 1967, and it's called The Discovery of Grounded Theory, I think. And later there was almost a book every year or every 2 years by Glaser. Strauss and Corbin created another book with a different version of grounded theory, which we refer to Straussian grounded theory, just to give you these two strands. Okay. Later on, the student of Glaser says, great, but I think we should have a constructivist view of grounded theory. So started in Charmaz, C-H-A-R-M-A-Z, and was a student of Glaser and started to disagree with the way Glaser was doing grounded theory and say, no, we need a constructive view of grounded theory. Basically, we need to incorporate the view of the people. We need, it's like a co-construction. So it's another debate here. So just to give you three major. There are a lot more smaller branches that are starting to appear, but just to give you an idea. So here we're just going to talk about the classic one. That was my PhD advisor. They helped me a lot to understand all that. Two co-authors in classic grounded theory that I've been publishing some books, and for those who haven't yet, this is from the book I wrote on classic grounded theory with Isabel Walsh and Professor Holton. And they were both teaching here at BSI. And of course to the organizer of those three. Just a little bit to tell you where I'm coming from and why it's important. I'm coming from a statistical quantitative background, but I love doing qualitative analysis. But because I'm coming from that background and I'm still in it, I like to have everything well organized, and grounded theory applied to qualitative data is really good for that from that perspective. You can apply grounded theory to quantitative data as well. So grounded theory can be applied to both at the same time. Clear for everyone? The exercise we're going to do here will be more dedicated to qualitative data, but you can do something extremely similar using quantitative data. And if you go back to the initial book of 1967, there is a chapter on quantitative grounded theory. Okay for everyone? There is a video of, so it was recorded 10 months ago. And basically this entire presentation, there is two more things here that I discussed in the video. Despite the rapid progress of AI, I would say 95% of everything I've said is still okay. No, really, it's really good. It's still good based on what we've seen in AI. It's more like complementary new tool that we could use. But everything I've said here in this video. So the gray area that you see here is discussed in this video. Okay. So here the goal is more to have a practical, experiential way of doing classic grounded theory, and also we can discuss how we can use AI and when we can use AI. That clear for everyone? Okay. So we're going to talk about the general process of classic grounded theory, and we're going to play a little game of classic grounded theory. This is from Glaser, and he did that at Stanford University in 2004, and the title is Pretty Subversive, How to Do a Dissertation in 6-8 Months. I don't recommend you do that, but that was his title. Now, if you have the genius level of someone like Glaser, who has, if you look at the books, it's over 40,000 citations of the first book, so you can imagine the type of impact he had. Well, maybe he can, I cannot. But maybe you can, I don't know. So, different thing here, and we're going to re-examine all of them. So the very first thing, we enter the field. So, compared to everything you've learned so far, we don't start with the literature review in classic grounded theory. We don't start with a research question. We don't know the research question. We don't know the literature we need to explore. We go from the field, and we start by collecting data. So the very first step of classic grounded theory is to ask a question in your field, and you start with a grand tour question. So it's a very open question. Tell me about. Tell me about. And then I will put a word. So you can start here. Can you tell me about BSI? And then I will let you speak. And then I will ask you, can you tell me about BSI? And I don't put anything here. Just tell me about. Just opening a grand tour question. And I listen. I take some mental notes. I could record if I wanted to or if it's necessary. Sometimes recording is not a good idea. I was in China and I was in the back of a restaurant and talking with a guy, and only after 2 hours of non-recording discussion interview, he was an entrepreneur, then he said, look, I'm in a really bad shape. I've been into corruption problems, and he was wearing a 3,000 watch. I really need to exit the country. Can you help me to go to Canada? So, of course, if I were to record such thing, probably I would not have access to the same level of data. You see the idea? So field notes here is something that Glaser recommend. You can take the note just after the interview or during the interview, depending on how you feel. But you could just listen very attentively, and after the interview, you write down everything you remember. If it's important, it will show up again in the next interview in the next interview. You ask what's going on. What is an indicator of? What is this an indicator of? And the big question is, what is the main concept? And here more like the main concern of the person you're interviewing. And what is the main concept that will resolve that concern or that will treat that concern. So, 2 keywords that I would like you to remember. Main concern, what is it? Can you repeat it? What is the first keyword I want you to remember? Nobody's listening? Main concern. Main concern, first keyword. The second one is core category. So I haven't mentioned core category yet, but 2 key aspects, main concern, core category. For those who are coming from quantitative, dependent variable, independent variable. And not just any independent variable, the independent variable which is going to treat or resolve as much as possible the main concern. Why? You want to have impact. That's why you're doing a BDBA. You've seen some problems in the industry. You want to confirm that those problems that you started to perceive, you want to confirm that really this is what's going on. So you start with an interview, open question, and then you start to bring the data in, and you look at the you look for the main concern in your data, and you do it from a very as scientific as possible by doing some coding of all the data. Clear? So as you do this, it's called open coding. You also take some notes. You memo. So you take some notes. You probably are all doing this right now. I see you also writing some notes. This is a memo. Okay, nothing difficult. As you do that, you will reach a point of theoretical saturation, which means you collect more and more interview, and it's always the same main concern that is showing up. It's always the same independent variable, or it's always a core category that explain what's going on. So you kind of reach that saturation level. That's the end of open coding. Okay, I'm going to describe it just after in a more structured way. Clear for everyone? Main concern, core category, memoing, theoretical saturation. I see again and again the same thing. So I start to say, okay, I'm really on something here. It's really a main concern of the people. It's really how they solve it. Now you move to selective coding. Selective coding is when you're going to code your data according to the core category. So instead of doing open coding where you code everything, you're going to do a coding only in relation to the core category. Okay, and we're going to practice that after. You continue to do that, then you have the main concern, saturated. The core category, saturated, and you have a lot of concepts around that start to saturate as well. Now you wonder, okay, how am I going to organize all those concepts together? Oh, maybe it's a typology. Maybe it's a context. Maybe there is a spiral loop. Maybe it's a process. So from the data will emerge what we call theoretical code that will explain the relationship between the concept and the core category, between the core category and the main concern. So you're looking for what is the link, the relation between what's going on in my theory. The theory emerged, main concern, core category, different concept. Now I have the relationship between each. Clear? I continue to write some memos. Sometimes it's not just, I can't draw just a line. Sometimes it's a full text that explains what's going on between those two concepts because it's complex, it's rich. Okay, this morning I was at a defense, he had 59 concepts. I can tell you, it's very rich because the situation is complex. That's why we need to do research. Okay? As we reach theoretical saturation again, you reach the end of theoretical coding. You know what are the relationships, and you start to write your first draft of the theory. At this stage, you have a lot of memos. So every memo you write, you collect them. Could be a notebook, and then you start to sort them, organize them. Okay? So sorting the memo is the first step before writing them up. As you sort the memo, you start to see, okay, this memo goes there, this memo goes there, this memo goes there. And you start to see the appearance of the different chapters of your book. Maybe there will be a series of, I don't know, something, and then chapter 1 will be on the first concept that emerged, chapter 2 on the second concept, an introduction that will give you an overview of a theory, and so forth. At this stage, so imagine the theory is like a little tree just starting to grow. Okay, so you're just collecting some data, you've got some ideas, and you've got a little tree. If at the beginning you say, oh, look, I just started this, this is a very beautiful theory. Look at this, it's growing, and I feel that there's something there. And you talk with someone who is not sensitive to grounded theory, and they come, oh yeah, you're right. It looks like, and he gives you a full theory that completely crushes the little tree you were trying to build. Another thing, look, it's beautiful. I'm going to ask the AI what he thinks. The AI come and say, oh, it looks like, crushed again. And it's not, I mean, it's horrible, but the AI is really good at crushing your brain, at putting some ideas in your brain and you don't even realizing it. I was texting with someone just 2 days ago, and my friend said, did you use an AI to reply to me? I said, no. Why you write like an AI? Shoot. The AI started to hack my brain and starting to make me write like an AI. So if it can do that at the language level and I don't even realize it, can you imagine what it will do on your concept and data that you don't even master? You're just collecting them right now. Okay, for everyone? So it's one of the things, that's why it's called shielding. So you want to create some shield around that. And at the beginning, you don't talk about your theory too much. You just write your memos. And if your advisor is a very good grounded theorist, he'll say, he will not even want you to tell at the beginning, not you to tell the emerging thing. Or at least he will let you speak, but not influence you in any ways, because you want to stick to your data. The theory should be grounded in your data. That's why we call that grounded theory. If I ask you, what is grounded theory? Oh, no. Yeah, if I ask you, visualize what is grounded theory. So close your eyes and then look, okay, grounded theory, what is the image that appears? Maybe you see a tree grounded into some data. I think that's the imagery that Glaser wanted to give. So a concept that has imagery, and if you go tomorrow, in French it works even better because it's enraciné, so you can see the roots. But grounded theory is grounded in the data. And if you go tomorrow, or even when work with from now, you will still remember grounded theory. It has some grab. Okay, you will feel, okay, it grabbed me, that concept grabbed me, I still remember that. And it's also fitting, so it fits the data. That's why we start with the data. The theory is starting from the data, becoming a beautiful tree. And if you start to explore the tree and how it is grounded, you can take every root and it will be linked to data. There is some data at the beginning. Clear for everyone? Okay. So this is the 7th step of building a grounded theory. So it's basically what Glaser was explaining. I put it in a more structured way because I like many structures. But we're going to play with that. Very quickly, 7 outcomes. First outcome, the main concern. Not your main concern, the main concern of the people you're interviewing. Maybe it's the main concern of your industry. Not what you think is important to research. No, no, no. Put this aside, or you write it down. It's your first interview, it's yourself. You do a grounded theory of yourself, and then you put it aside, and then you ask people. Then you find the core category. The main concept that will resolve or interact, explain the core category will explain, interact with the main concern. The component, the variable of your theory. The theoretical model, which have all the relationship between the different concepts. Then you write down your memos into a first draft of your theory. From there, you go to the literature. You don't go here at the literature, you don't need it. Your tree is just like this. How do you know that that tree belongs to that literature or this one? You don't know yet. Maybe it's information system theory, or maybe it's an entrepreneurial theory. You don't even know the field. You just ask a question, tell me about. You have no idea where it's going to go. Maybe you got some ideas, but you know what I mean. Okay? So if you bring the literature too early, you may have a literature, you don't want that. But if you have written the first draft of your theory, if you have theoretical saturation all the steps before, which means you see again and again the concept in your data, you know it's grounded in the data, you know it's strong, you've seen it so many times. You give the concept and you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different citations from different interviews with people. You know it's there, you know it's a problem, it's a concept, it's an important one. Then, when someone says it's not important, you say, no, 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 in my data it's very important. And when someone else says, you should use this concept, you're going to look at the concept, is there a fit with my data? And you know very well your data now. The tree is like this. If I try to step on it, I can't. Got it? If the AI tries to step on it, it can't. If another member of the jury tried to step on it, unless you didn't do all that, it's going to be difficult. But maybe it will say, look, you didn't see that set of data and you didn't build a theory around that. So maybe there is another branch of your tree that is waiting to emerge. Maybe he's right. So it's great. So when you look at the theory, the literature, you're going to find maybe new concepts that are grounded in the data, or new concepts that are not grounded in your data. Doesn't mean they don't exist, but at least they are not in your data. So when we go back to literature, we integrate the literature in the theory. And by integration, that could be, I disagree. That theory is great maybe wherever it was made, but it's not in my data and doesn't fit my data. Or, oh yes, that's a concept I didn't see in my data for some reason. You go back to your data, is that concept really there? Yes, I found it in many different interviews. Thank you so much, literature, integrate that. And you've got a great discussion section where you say, okay, in my data at the beginning I didn't see that. In reading the literature I found this concept, it's great, it matches. So my theory is even stronger because I didn't meet that concept. That idea of concept can come from the AI, can come from a jury, can come from a discussion, and then you bring them together. And do they match my data? Yes. And I integrate in my theory. The theory can build, and you can cite the people that worked on those concepts before, obviously. So the integration of it is great from that perspective. And finally, you've got your theory grounded in data and also checked by the literature, by the AI, by the people, the expert in the academic field. That make sense? Let's practice. So, 2 ways. If you like, I don't force you, but if you like, you can use index cards, write everything on paper. If you prefer, you can go on this website, doinggt.com/bsi, and play the game. We're going to use the same data, but one will be based on note cards. It's an example of different note cards I use. You've seen at the beginning, I had a huge board, a huge table with so many index cards. I just sent that paper to the Academy of Management. I got accepted. It's a very high level of acceptance, very low level of acceptance. But of course, I go from that to a very beautiful conceptual framework, and it works. Okay. So if you prefer to use this, feel free to use it. If you prefer the card, let us ask me. So we'll start with, I think it's this one, the first one. So, and maybe you can work in group of 2. That will be better, more interactive. Okay. First of all, I much prefer to use an index card. I do computer science all day long, but this has been vibe coding, by the way. So the software, I didn't write one single line of code, but I spent 3 months vibe coding it. So the software here has been written by ChatGPT, what you're seeing on screen. So I love doing this, but for a grounded theory, I much prefer index card. So and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to give you the option. Okay, so let's go on. Okay. So you all have a table in front of you. This is your board. That's where you put the different cards. For those who are online, so if you click here, you get all the steps. That's the step you have on the other side. If you don't like colors, you can change the color. There is a button on the right. Or if you prefer white, or if you prefer another type of color, another type of color. Okay, anyway. And you click again on the steps, and you go back to step 1. You got the steps here, step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay? Okay for everyone? First thing you do, you go in the field, you collect some data. So let's say you went to a protest, and you took some pictures. And it was a protest about Belarusians living in Poland protesting the arrest of journalists. This is the one I gave you. One for those. You have the same? Yeah. And I would like you to do an open coding. So the open coding will be to code everything you see on the image on this. And you're just going to click on open code, and you're going to write the code. Okay? So for example, I'm going to click, so I see protest the arrest of journalists. What will be a good name for this? What will be a good name for a concept for this? Freedom of speech. So I'm going to code that as freedom of speech. And then I'm going to write freedom of speech here. And I'm going to click save. You have a new code that appears here. Freedom of speech, you can continue coding. If you're on paper, you can use the little note card, index card, or you can write down directly on them. A few more here, if you want. And then you're going to code everything. Okay, so I'm going to give you a few minutes, do the open coding. Okay. The goal is to identify what is the main concern of those people, and how do they resolve it. Okay. So let's share a few code. Can I have your attention for a second? Yeah. I will start with the last group at the back because they had some interesting code. Can you share the name of your codes?
The name?
The name.
We had freedom of speech and freedom of expression.
Very good.
But then we had show publicly the problem and group protest.
Excellent. Okay. You see, those are great concepts because they are abstract from time, location, and people. You didn't use Roman or China. You just went straight to freedom of speech. If you do freedom of speech in China, you're going down in terms of abstraction. Okay. If you do freedom of speech, you're already higher conceptually. Can you tell me the second code you gave me? So let's take show publicly the problem. Maybe around that is a little long. Mm-hmm. Is there a name for that?
Maybe the second one, the group protest.
So group protest might be a higher concept that will have show publicly. Yeah. Okay for everyone? So you see, you start to see the emergence of the theory, even just after 5 minutes. You went from some raw data anchored into a location, anchored into a people like Roman, anchored into a time, probably 2019, that's the date of the article, and you went straight to a theory. And you can do that from all of them. So it's very much what you have in quantitative analysis, where you're going to have some data and then it will all indicate a concept. It's exactly the same here. Very good. Okay for everyone? Can you give me some example here?
So the first one is freedom of speech again, the second protesting.
Protesting. So protesting is also one of the key factors. You mentioned something else here.
We talk about mask, but we don't write it down.
Very good. So mask is also a concept. So everyone, do you see the mask? Yeah, so everyone in the picture, they are all wearing masks. So mask is also something you can see in the picture. And in fact, those examples are coming from this book. So she published this book, and I started to use her image with her authorization. She also taught at BSI. And her core concept was mask messaging. So using the mask to send a message. That's what she saw in the data. Okay for everyone? Okay. So let's continue a little bit more. I want to show you a few more things. Memos. So memos is really something you write down. So mask seems to play an important role in sending a message to the government. And I can even use the term you used. What was your concept? Group protest. So in a situation of group protest. And the code below, what was the code below?
The show publicly the problem.
Show publicly. So show publicly will be also something that we can add here.
Yeah.
So here we write a memo and we start to group them. By grouping them, there is sending a message. And it's true, it's a relation we see in the data. They all go outside and they want to be seen. They want to create some chaos, so people are going to film them so that they're sending a message. Okay for everyone? So we can continue on that. And I save and I have a memo here. That memo can be related to some code. So for example, this, I can click on this one with control, and then I can create, well, I need to gather a little bit more data, I think. So at any time you can double click on a card to collect. So this one is on Black Lives Matter. And then I can create another code here. I still see a lot of masks, so I'm going to create another code which we'll call mask. Okay. When you do it with cards, what happens very often is I'm going to create a card that will link to other cards. So the relationship will be can be also expressed like this. Okay. So now I can create a relationship between this, because I've seen the mask here, and my memo. So I'm going to click on the first one, or I can select both at the same time. I hate this mouse. Okay, so I'm going to select those two, please. And then you create a relationship here. That relationship will link those two here. Maybe it's a simple relationship. I don't need to be explicit, so I can save it. Maybe it's a more complex relationship. So I'm going to select this, and then I'm going to create a more complex relationship. Okay. I'm going to create that relationship as a way to connect those two. Clear for everyone? Yes.
What's the concept?
So usually a concept is something of a higher level than a code. So when you have several codes together, you may see, oh, that's interesting. It forms a sort of a pattern. Let me name that pattern. And that pattern will be named a concept. Okay? So if I take mask, for example, and here there is clearly a message related to all that. So I can click on open code, and there is a message. So messaging is another another code, sorry, which is also a concept in this case. So now that I have messaging and code, I can realize that those two together are very interesting because they form a pattern. People are using math to message. Those two together are really a concept. Let's do it. So I'm going to create a concept here, and I'm going to call that mass messaging. So the name of my concept is mass messaging, and I'm going to have mass messaging here, and this will be related to those two. And I can create those relations. So when you have real data, you may have 10 different cards, you organize them, you realize, oh my God, this is all mass messaging. It's really what's going on in my data. They're all you wearing masks and they're all sending a strong message. Okay for everyone? When we have this, so we can choose our main concern. So the main concern was, for example, sending a message. If I go to or protesting, but sending a message is really what they're trying to, or they are resolving a political crisis. It could be another type of main concern. We need to analyze more the data, but there's something around that. So let's say sending a message or conflict resolution, maybe. That's their main concern, is to resolve those conflicts. Okay. So now that we have our main concern, we continue to do open coding. We've done that already, and we look for the core category. Okay, so I have my main concern. I'll put it a little bit on the side. And if I go to step 2, I can now choose, as you see here, the identification of the core category. So I choose the core category. Mass messaging would be one, but you found different ones. So this is also, that's why I'm using critical realism as my favorite epistemology. Did I speak in your language? So critical realism, in short, is like, if we all go to a mountain, the mountain exists. Nobody will tell you it doesn't exist. Also, I could argue that in 1 million years, probably that mountain will not exist anymore, but that mountain exists for all of us right now. But if I send you to that mountain, I send you to that mountain, I send you to that mountain, and I go, we'll all have a completely, not completely, but a different view of the mountain. And they will all be valid views. So that's critical realism. So it's a subjective way of apprehending a real world. The subjective component of a stone on the mountain is not subjective for me. It's a real stone.
Yeah,
That's why. But if I go in your company and I see a component such as, I don't know, hierarchy, there's a bit of subjectivity here. So maybe from that perspective, it would be nice to go on that epistemology. Core category, mass messaging. Okay. Now that I have my core category, I have mass messaging, I can go on selective coding. So at any point, I will be able to collect more data. So let's say you want to collect more data, so I'm going to give you more data. So for those on the computer, you can click on gather data, and then you can collect more data, but this time you're going to analyze based on what you see here. So in that case, it saves the tree. I'll give you this as well, so you know which one we're talking about. Do you see some mask in Save the Tree? Yes, not surprisingly. And now the mask have some characteristics which are interesting because that's a mask made of trees, and maybe we're going to find some properties of the mask. And if you remember earlier in China, they were wearing masks with a way to breathe through. And Black Lives Matter, I think they were wearing black masks. They all have different meanings. So you can start to develop the theory of mass messaging based on the different code you see emerging, and you're going to have a full theory of mass messaging. Mass messaging for nature, so there is a typology of messages depending on the data you see appearing. Okay for everyone? That's selective coding. We don't code for everything, we code for the core category, which is in this case mass messaging. Could be a different core category, it's your choice, depending on what you see in your data. But you should be able to, and that's why it's science, you should be able to trace it back to all the data that created that, or from which the core category emerged. Okay for everyone? Yes? Okay, so we have the main concern, we have the core category. With the extra data, we start to see the different outcomes. So there's a typology of that's going to give us as well a theoretical model. We see and we write down, we feel there is a typology of mass messaging. The typology itself is the relationship that link all those three cards, the first three cards. Okay? That's what we call a theoretical code. There are many different types of theoretical code. It could be a context, could be a cause, an effect, a spiraling effect, a mathematical effect, a logarithmic effect, etc., etc. But it has to come from the data. So you see in the data, okay, that's how I'm going to organize it based on the way I see the pattern developing between the concepts in my data. So when we do theoretical code, we look at how they interact. Very often they will appear when you write memos, because the memos are going to try to exercise and link, create a relationship between the different concepts to see what's going on, and you will see that this is how it relates. They may be implicit or explicit in the data. So, relationship, we saw that. Resorting. This technique is amazing when you are lost, when you're confused. It will happen, I can guarantee that. When you have so many codes, so many memos, you're getting lost and you don't know what to do, you do a sorting. Sorting simply means I take some of the index card. On paper, you can do it. You can do it on the screen. One card, you put it, you shuffle the card. It doesn't matter because you're already confused. You put the first one there, take the second card. You read it, you know what is there. Is it different or not? If it's so close similar, you put it together. If it's different, you don't. And you continue. Take another, oh, that's really different. That's interesting, it's the same. Oh, this one seems to be in between those two. And you do that with your 200 cards. You reach what I showed you first. If I reload this, that's my sorting. And I start to name the piles. So I know this pile is about this pile is about that, this pile about that. From that set of cards, I did several sortings, and I've got 3 different theories. I've got a typology, I think we have 3 typology. We have a typology this way, a typology this way, and within some of them there is even more typology. I love typology, but it has emerged from the data. So we've got potentially 3 papers out of it. It was on academic freedom. There was a typology of what is crushing our academic freedom. There is a typology of what can protect academic freedom. There was a typology of what should be protected as academic freedom. Got 3 typologies based on certain interviews. Okay for everyone? Just an example, you may find something else. It could be just a causal relationship between 2 variables or a process model. I don't know your data. Importantly enough, we click here when we reach saturation. This is when you click on more and more data and nothing happens. And that saturation up here, you can write the theory itself. And once you write the theory, then you can bring the AI in. Your tree is strong. I'm going to compare my tree to what the AI is going to tell me. I'm going to compare my tree to what the experts in the field are saying. I'm going to compare my tree to the literature. That's when I'm bringing in all those experts. Because my tree is very strong. And I can confidently shield it. In fact, it doesn't need any more shield because it's strong. But at the beginning, I need to shield it from all those influences. Hence, the concept of shielding in that case. So shielding your brain from the AI is very important. Okay, I think I'm going to just quickly finish. Clear? Once you've done, you integrate the literature, you publish, you defend, and you have a strong theory because you can trace it down. Couple of more comments here. I'm going to slide through. So you have this model, you can keep it. Huh? A few things on the right. This exercise has some limits. It's a game. There was no grand tour question. You didn't spend an hour listening to someone. I just gave you some data. That's possible as well, but grand tour questions are amazing. You discover so many things. It's not a complete grounded theory. We haven't reached saturation, really, not with 3 small cards like this. So it's a conjecture at best. It's just a little tiny seed growing. But it gives you a practical overview of everything. I think from here you've got, okay, I can do this, and you got the main plan, you know the tools, you know what to do when you're stuck sorting, for example, memoing. Theoretical sampling is not part of the game. I didn't talk a lot about it. When you reach the core categories, the main concepts, you can ask questions related to the core category directly. And then you're going to select the people you're going to talk to according to the emergence of the theory, so that you can enrich your theory with their point of view. Okay for everyone?
So this theoretical sampling step is before saturation?
Yeah.
How do you decide?
When you saturate?
Or
Or
when you start to guide the interview towards your
after you saturated the main concern and the core category?
Okay, so you need to reach one level of saturation and then you move to that one.
Yes.
And saturate that level.
Yeah, that's why I have a process model here. So once I reach theoretical saturation and here, then I can move to selective coding. And here I'm going to collect more data with theoretical sampling based on that. So the core category that I have here is my main concept. Now I need to enrich that concept. What are the dimensions? What are the properties of that concept? Is it, you can think of duration, for example. You can think, depending on the data are going to drive this. And you continue. When should you apply the shielding? As long as the tree is not strong enough, you want to shield it. But after, you can do a lot. So this is an exercise. You can watch the video. I complete all the steps with the different type of shield or no shield or welcoming. And I just want to, no, not this one. Oh, sorry. Yeah. One thing that could be very useful now that we have AI, when you have reached your model, you've got maybe 10 different concepts, 5 relationships. They are all really strongly connected to the data. And then a jury member is saying, okay, I don't believe you. I don't trust that this model is grounded. You ask an AI to go on each concept across 45 interviews, extract all the citation related to it. You can automate it so it goes through all the theoretical component of your theory, extract all the citation, create a huge table, ask how much is the fit, sort by the fit, and you've got a list of all the citation according to each concept. And a list like this, I can tell you, will convince anybody if you've done a good job. And if you've done a good job at the beginning of coding, it's very easy after to extract that list because it's grounded into the data. So for me, it's an amazing use of AI from that perspective. But you do that after the theory emerged, not before.